because it's so common to go to a store, pick up like a bottle of Drano, pick up some kind of chemical to throw down there. You think, oh, my problems are clear. And I admittedly used to be that way. I'd put Drano in absolutely everything until I went and cleaned out my P-traps at my house. And when I did that, I could see that nothing was really fixed. I just had a much bigger problem that I had to fix after the fact. Welcome to the Dino Service Bros podcast with Dino Service Pros. What's up, broski?
Yes, sir. I like it.
Welcome back.
Oh, man.
Welcome back. I think this is going to be a good one because we're going to talk about maintenance and prevention. And as a homeowner, at least for myself, I know for you, how can I keep things lasting longer, especially in this economy where I don't want to pay as high prices on things? How can I stretch that out further?
That's right. Let's get into it.
Well, yeah, let's get into it. You talked about that nightmare of a mess at that hotel where the parking lot was sinking in. And so we talk about neglect all the time and how neglect leads to problems, which leads to more money spent. So where do you see that consistently with neglect in homes, especially here in Southern Utah?
Well, I like that. See, my biggest thing with that hotel, right? They let it become... From the neglect, they let it get so far out, 4 or 6 months. I'm pretty sure they told me it was 4 to 6 months. They neglected the issue for so long because it's like, well, if we stop, right, to fix this, do we have to shut down the hotel or whatever? They're all about money, right? What they didn't realize is neglecting it cost them so much more money. So that was the problem with them is like 4 or 6 months. Not only did we have to take up so much, but we had to bring in fill dirt. They had to pay a hazardous fee for us to dump it, a pump truck, like all these things they had to pay for, where it's like the second you saw something, because right, it's going to bubble up. The problem with sewer water or like a water leak in general, as the dirt starts to get saturated, it's going to bubble and rise, right? It has nowhere else to go. So it's going to start to come up. So as soon as you see like those signs, call a plumber, call somebody, like let's get this figured out so we can solve it now.
Especially us, because it doesn't cost anything to have us come out and look at it.
Yeah,
you might as well know what you're dealing with.
It's a free estimate or free knowledge or whatever it may be, right? We're going to come out. We're going to give you the information that you need. Well, these people neglected it for so long that it became a massive sinkhole. Concrete caved in. We had to take out so much more concrete because it was such a massive void that was, I can't send my guys into a hole. And that's that dangerous, right? You got concrete slabs above you or whatever, like, that's dangerous that it could fall in. You know what I mean? So they had to pay for refill of dirt. We had to take out more because it was just so like contaminated. We had to haul out so much more dirt. But that all comes from neglect. Like if they would have hopped on it right away, they probably could have saved a couple $1,000s, So yeah, I mean, it's a big thing to be on top of your maintenance. I like to call it, right? Preventative maintenance. Let's get on top of this stuff before it turns into multiple thousands of dollars of damages.
So that had to deal with the hotel, but we're talking about neglect in general. When it comes to a home, what do you think the most neglected maintenance is in someone's home that could cost them more in the end?
Everything. Don't neglect your houses. Let's get on top of this stuff, man. I mean, and a lot of it could be done by homeowners. That's what people don't realize. Like, you don't have to call a tradesman for everything. Like a lot of the things you could do yourself if you know. Like, dude, as much as I dislike people being the do-it-yourselfer, there's a lot of things you could do, like
the YouTube plumbers
the do-it-yourself guys. So like, I'm a man. And then they call the plumber and they're like, I messed up.
That's like, we just had a DIYer do their electrical for themselves and they didn't have lights for like 2 years.
Yeah, they were just like embarrassed to call.
They neglected taking care of the problem, and so it led them to having to pay more money because they were just trying to find a solution. But in the end, our electrician said if they would have tackled this 2 years ago, it would have actually cost them less, one, because of inflation, but two, because them trying to fix it themselves ended up causing more problems than what there actually was.
Yeah, and they were doing that during, I can't say it because we'll probably get canceled, but with the government, but it was during the 19 pandemic. but
I'll say it.
Yeah, they're like big, like everything you see on Instagram, right? It's like these people are like false information, like it's blocked, deleted. It's like because the formats start pulling it off. But during it, right, a lot of people during the pandemic were very massive on like, how can I save money? I'm gonna try to do things myself because I'm at home, right? So like that, like she tried to do that. Hey man, like sure, I own a plumbing, HVAC, electrical company, but I'm not touching electrical. I'll leave that for Irving. Hey Irving, I need help on my electrical, bro, because I'm not touching it. You know, like there's just things like you do and don't do, but like there are some things you can do. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things you can do as a homeowner, right? The biggest neglected thing that could be like a simple thing, right, is your water heaters, right? I like tell
flushing
people,
it.
Yeah, I like to tell people your water heater is like a car. You know, it's like your car. You're gonna do an oil change every 3,000 to there's some oils out there, I guess, that are 8,000 miles. But you're gonna do your preventative maintenance so you don't burn a motor. So the biggest thing with a water heater, you know, what you're gonna run into is your yearly maintenance. Like I mean, I tell people every 6 months, but bare minimum do it once a year. Flush the water heater. There's YouTube videos out there. And hopefully we make one here pretty soon too. So Dino has their own little show and tell on how we do that. But with that, you know, it's just like turn off your gas supply, right? So the biggest thing is gonna be like to flush your water heater, you're gonna shut off your gas supply.
It's the red handle,
or yellow,
It's
usually yellow, but some people throw red on there. Yeah, but
it's usually a yellow line that comes.
Yeah,
through.
the yellow. So yeah, you're right. It's the yellow flex line that's coming out. And then over to that yellow flex line, you're going to have a gas cock, and it's just a shut-off valve, and then you just turn that guy off. So you want to shut off your gas supply, and then shut off your water up top. Usually most houses on your water heaters, if it's done by a correct plumber, is going to have a ball valve up there. Hopefully that works. And the biggest thing that comes with the ball valve is exercising it. So that's the nice thing. You're kind of getting a couple things done. With your shut-off valve up above your water heater, which is on the cold supply line, you want to exercise that valve, which every other valve in your house as well, because if you don't, your valves, they freeze up is what we call it. They just freeze
exercise,
up.
like do it once a year, like every 6 months.
Yeah, every 6 months
just
to a
make
year.
sure it's moving.
Yeah, open it, close it. Just exercise it right so it stays free. That hard water and stuff doesn't, start to calcify over and doesn't let you move it. So with that, right, there's a drain pipe down there. You just hook up a garden hose to. You run it outside or run it to a drain. Water your plants with it. You save your water your grass. Put it somewhere where it's useful. It is hot though, so if your water heater's working, it's hot. But so you run that sucker outside. What we like to do, because it's how I explain it. It's like, right, you got a straw in your soda or whatever you're drinking, and you put your thumb on it and you bring it out. Your straw's full of, right, whatever your liquid is in there. And so it's the same thing for a water heater. People are like, well, I flushed it, but no water came out. And I'm like, there's 50 gallons of water there. Like there should be water coming out. But what it does is airlock. So once you open up that drain, you have to open up a supply line. So you break open that nut, open it up so it has air so it could push that out, right? And then once you drain that out, you hook it all back up. And while the drain is still on there, you open up that ball valve on the cold supply so it steers up that calcium and all that sediment on the bottom. You open it because the pipe, there's a fill pipe that goes all the way down. It's a dip tube, right? Goes all the way down. And it like, when that water comes out, you got like 65 PSI. So it slams that sediment, steers it up, pushes it out. You just do that a couple of times, try to get it all out. And that should help you with flushing it. Every 2 to 3 years, there's an anode rod in there, which is a sacrificial rod, right? It's a softer metal where that hard water is going to eat away at that prior to eating the lining of the tank. I like to pull them every 2 years. That's my preference. Every 2 years, I'll pull them. Sometimes they're great. They could go in there for another year. Sometimes they're gone. So you need to replace it then and there. But I say check it about every 2 years. And it's like it's a pretty simple setup. And then fill it back up. Go open up a bathtub faucet, because if there is still sediment in the line, or in the unit, you want to open up a bathtub on the hot side. One, you get all the air out the system, and if there is any sediment, you have an open port there, so it's going to flow out of that into the tub. If you do it on a faucet where you have aerator and screens and all this, well, now that faucet is going to be clogged. So there's a couple steps to it, but it's fairly simple, right? So that's one of the biggest things, I think, because it will make your water heater go from lasting 3 to 6 years to possibly lasting 6 to 12 years. So like, it's a big maintenance thing. And obviously water heaters, if you're hiring a plumber to do it, aren't getting cheaper. They're getting more expensive. Sure, can you do it yourself? Yeah, but are you going to do it right, bring it up to code and all those things? Probably not, because you don't know code. So,
and insurance companies look at that too. We've ran into that a bunch, where they had a handyman do a water heater, and then they had a leak, and then the insurance was very hesitant to cover it. I don't know if they did or not. But
They didn't because it was a
yeah.
gas sediment tee. They forgot to put the gas sediment tee on, and they're like, well, we're not covering it because we can't say that gas sediment tee not being there is what caused the burner assembly to fail, or the gas control valve to fail. So, like I say, like when it comes to reinstalling water heaters, I do say call a professional, like putting in new water heaters, just because of code that needs to be done. You know, obviously, like the maintenance is one thing you could do on your own, but when it comes to code and like just bringing it up to date, like I say pay the money, but stay on top of it, right? So you're not changing out a water heater every 6 years or so, like, so you can hopefully change it out every 6 to 12 years, save you some money there, you know, so you're not spending that thousands of dollars every so often.
Well, and they just don't make things like they used to. And with that being said, we're seeing products or equipment last a lot less when people don't maintain them.
For a lot more too.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But I mean, obviously, like that's with everything. It's not just plumbing, it's homes and everything else going up. So,
well, what would you say the biggest issue is? Like when I think of not servicing your water heater, we run into this all the time. We'll go out, water heater's leaked, and now it's destroyed their, what do you call it? The table it sits on?
It's like a pedestal. Yeah.
Pedestal, destroys the pedestal it sits on. Then you got to bring out someone like ServPro or one of the many other great companies that we use, Envirotech, and they have to come and mitigate now something that was 100% preventable.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too, is because like nowadays you have pans, right? They put pans under water heaters that have a drain pipe, or it has a drain port, right? So you run PVC to the nearest drain. Like most out here, you have drains in that pedestal, or they're on the floor, wherever they may be. Every house is a little bit different how they plumbed it, but wherever they may be, you run that PVC to the drain, which most plumbers should do because they sit in a pan. But what we see a lot is like they never ran the pan drain to an actual sewer drain.
It's just kind of ran down to the floor.
Yeah, and it's like, well, it's still gonna leak. And that's preference too. Some plumbers are like, well, you want to be able to see when it's leaking. It's not just going into a drain and you have no idea it's leaking. So it's a back and forth kind of thing. But to save your damages from drywall, or if your garage is like, you got boxes or so forth, like you want to be able to, you don't want all that stuff to get ruined. So there's ways to prevent it from costing you a couple more thousand, because we run into that a lot. The pan not being to the drain now ruined the pedestal. So you're doing a temporary install on a water heater, so you have hot water to your house. But also the mitigation team has to come in, mitigate that, and then rebuild it all. And then now you're calling a plumber back out for a second time to reinstall that the proper way. So that's one of the biggest things. And like another thing with that is like you have combustion air with gas water heaters, right? So you want to keep all like paints, gas, anything that's like flammable away from a water heater. It's one of the biggest things, keep all those stuff away. Like I've gone to houses where they have a gas tank sitting right next to the water heater, and I'm like, don't do that. Pull that away.
There's a live flame there.
Yeah, like pull that away. Like, have I seen it blow up? No, but it's happened, right? And that's why it's in code, like to keep it away from it. So, that's a big tip and trick. Keep your water heaters clear. Flush them, but keep them clear of anything flammable as well.
What about tanklesses? Is it different with tanklesses? Can you service your own? Is there a way to do preventative maintenance?
You can do preventative maintenance, and that's pretty simple too. You really got to be more careful with it, I would say. Just because like they could do like a vinegar solution, right? That they run through it, like, and that's the biggest thing. If you guys out there get like a tankless installed, I see a lot of tanklesses without, like, we call them like isolation valves or termination kits or whatever. There's a lot of terms for it, but all it is like it gives you two ports, right? It has your main feed, your cold line feeds the water heater, and then your hot line coming down. Well, these valves have an additional one with their own shut-off valves, so they're just service valves at the end of the day, right? So you could shut off the supply going to the house and into it and make it like a closed system for just your tankless.
So it's flushing it.
Yeah.
Out.
So you could use an acid to clean the heat exchanger, or you could use a vinegar that's like cleaner. It's not, you don't have acid running through your system. So if you're going to do it yourself, I say use a vinegar solution. If you're going to have a professional, most of them are going to use more like an acid base, because I feel like it does a better job. Like I've pulled more out of a heat exchanger with like an acid based chemical than with a vinegar like solution. So, but it is like you're able to do it. There are YouTube videos out there, but it's just making sure you do it proper, right? With that as well. Because all you're doing is they sell kits where it's a pump in a bucket, right? With the solution, you fill it up with water, based on what you're using, what the manufacturer like recommends for that, like 4 gallons, 5 gallons, usually 5-gallon bucket. Fill it up with water in that solution, and then it has a pump in there. All it's doing is pumping that water into the heat exchanger and back into your 5-gallon bucket. The sediment's settling to the bottom, and it just keeps flushing. You do that for like 45 minutes, and then after
like
that,
a once a year type thing for that too.
yeah, once a year. Well, see, that's again, if you're not having a softener on your home, you should be doing it about every 6 months, depending on the water quality, right? Like if you're in an area like Utah, we have crazy hard water. If you're in another part of the nation where it's not really hard, then you probably get away with once a year. But in the state of Utah, like if you don't have a softener, no, you need to be doing that 6 months, you know? And a lot of these manufacturers void the warranty on these units if you don't have a softener with it. What people fail to realize is like on a tankless, like because of the heat exchanger in our hard water, if you're not softening it or putting some type of like water quality system on it, the manufacturers won't warranty when they fail because they're like, well, your water is extremely hard. Like it was bound to happen, you know, and you took no preventative maintenance to like fix that prior to it happening, right? So, but yeah, with the tankless, like I say, if you don't have a softener, you should be doing it about every 6 months. If you do, at least once a year, bare minimum once a year. So obviously, the more you do it, the better. You know, it doesn't hurt it to do it more.
So with talking about that, adding the softener into play, how can people take care of their softener better? Because that sounds like it's an important part to your whole house system, just as much as the heater is.
Like maintaining your softener?
Yeah.
There's really not, I mean, there's not much, right? Softeners are pretty like good systems. Like depending on the brand you're using, they're really good systems. Like, they have like a self-cleaning, self-regeneration. Yeah, because they clean themselves. They have regeneration, right? So the resin, it takes all that calcium, magnesium, and it catches onto there, right? And then the regeneration is like, because people think it's the salt. The salt, all that is like the brine solution, right? That's what cleans it. So once that, all the resin takes over, like the calcium, magnesium, and it softens that water going through. It depends. Every model's a little bit different, right? But you're running into like, it's going based off of gallons. Once so many gallons are used, it's going to go through a regeneration process to clean out that system. So the biggest thing you could do is stay on top of your salt. Like, don't let it go without salt, because when it needs to regenerate, that's how it cleans itself. And if it keeps going without salt, then it's not cleaning itself, and you're just going to shorten that lifespan of that water softener. What people I go to so many homes and they have a softener, and I'm like, hey, it's empty. Like, where's your salt at? Oh, I haven't filled it up in a while. I'm like, it's like, stay on top of it, because these units, for one, aren't cheap, and they save your home from a lot. You know what I mean?
Back to neglect.
Yeah, it's just neglecting. You know, like hard water out here is crazy, right? It shortens the lifespan of your water, really all your appliances, water heaters, dishwasher, refrigerator, right? Whatever they're hooked to, right? It shortens the lifespan of everything. Faucets, the showers, like, because everything that takes water usually has a cartridge in it, or the supply lines are very small, so that hard water will fill it up, you know, and then you're down to not having any water flow in those areas. Your dishwashers, like, if you have a softener, you're not really going to see all those hard water spots on your like glasses and stuff like that. So it helps with it, right? So having that soft water is going to expand the lifespan of like your dishwasher. Now you're seeing like dishwashers last like 5 years out here, right? Out here, the water's brutally hard. So you're seeing people change them out every 5 years. People with softeners, they're getting a lot more lifespan out of them. So, I mean, softeners, I'm a big advocate for. Have them on your house, because even with your plumbing systems have, like, nowadays we're a lot of PEX, so it's plastic pipe. And I like to tell people, like, think about erosion, like how erosion works, right? Like with water, right? It's pulling away all the dirt and it's bringing it farther down. It's really the same concept with like hard water. Like, it's going through the pipes, but you have like these minerals that are in it, and they slowly just start to carve out the pipe in different spots, and that's when you'll get your like pinhole leak, you know, and like you have a little pinhole coming out. Crazy thing is, you'll see, like, what people don't realize, what you can do as well, is like, if you see a calcium boil on any of your fittings, like that are like supplied pressurized water lines, you see the calcium boils that are white, you know, I like to call them, they look like cancer, like just big old balls. But with it is that was a water leak at one point. It was very slow that the hard water was able to cover it up. But if you were to go knock all that off, it probably started leaking on you again. So you see that, like, call a plumber, have them come out, take a look at it. Usually it's going to get changed out because it's been leaking at some point.
So we were talking, like you said something earlier about like with the tanklesses using an acid base or things like that. So I want to talk about drains a little bit because it's so common to go to a store, pick up like a bottle of Drano, pick up some kind of chemical to throw down there. You think, oh, my problems are clear. And I admittedly used to be that way. I'd put Drano in absolutely everything until I went and cleaned out my P-traps at my house. And when I did that, I could see that nothing was really fixed. I just had a much bigger problem that I had to fix after the fact. So what would you give advice to people on with their drains when it comes to making sure they're taken care of?
So the biggest issues we see with drains are like kitchen drains, right? Because a lot of people still fail to realize like you can't pour grease down your drain. You know what I mean? Like grease just hardens up down the way and you start getting, just say it's clogged arteries, you know, it just starts filling these pipes. You go from 2-inch pipe or 1.5 to 4-inch and you slowly just start closing that pipe up, you know? So with it, like you want to stay away from eggshells, grease down your kitchen drains, food. Like people have garbage disposals, but I tell them it's not a trash can. Like don't use it as a trash can. Use your trash can for your food. Yeah, you're going to have a little bit of stuff, you know what I mean? And that's what your garbage disposal is meant for, but it's not meant for literally throwing chicken wings down. So staying on top of keeping that stuff out is going to help the longevity of your drain system, but also like preventative jetting, having your pipes jetted, you know? So you could get like on a maintenance plan where it's like once a year you jet your plumbing system or every 2 to 3 years. It depends on how you are as a person. Are you throwing oatmeal down there, stuff like that? So I stay away from the Dranos and all those like drain, quote unquote, drain cleaning stuff.
We're a big advocate for no chemicals.
Yeah, and it's like, does it suck because you have to call a plumber to get your jetting done? Because they got the thousands of dollars worth of equipment. Like jetters, like good jetters are costing you 10 to 15,000 on a walk behind, and then trailer mount jetters like 30 to 50,000, you know what I mean? So it's like, obviously like the guys could come out, run a camera, look at your drainage, and maybe do that every 2-3 years. Or like you start having like your pipes start gurgling at you, you know, they sound like they're burping and gurgling. Stop using water, call a plumber, because that means it's not flowing freely. Like there's something slowing that water down. So like call a plumber, have your drain lines cameraed, see what's going on, and sit there with them, because usually their cameras obviously have a screen for them and see, like, sit with them if you don't trust your plumber or you're worried about that. Because right, plumbers are looked at like salesmen sadly nowadays, and there's a lot of them that are salesmen nowadays. So look at it. I know like a lot of plumbers are like, I hate people that are over my shoulder, but it's like you're paying them, you know what I mean? So like get the footage, sit there with them and ask those questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. No questions are dumb questions. So it's like sit there, look at how your drain equipment looks. If it looks awesome, cool. But if you're seeing your pipes are starting to sludge up, then have them jet it for you. That's the best way to do it. Your P-traps are easy. You could do yourself. There's just nuts, right? You pull those nuts off and then you just clean them. Usually I just get toilet paper and push it down in there through. And you'll get like, because that P-trap holds water and you're going to get sludge there. But pushing toilet paper through that and pulling it out is really the best method for just your P-traps, which is accessible. What's not accessible underground, obviously you need a jetter. It's just a high pressure washer, you know, with just jet heads.
Yeah, I had this nasty smell in my sink consistently, and it wasn't until I cleaned out my P-traps that it go away.
Yeah, and that's what people always think, and they call plumbers for that. They're like, hey, I got this gross smell, you know, it smells like sulfur or whatever. And they're thinking they're getting sewer smell, which your whole P-trap purpose is to keep the sewer smell behind it. So you're not getting that smell. So when you start smelling that, usually it's in your P-traps. And that's like, save a couple, you know, $100, $200, whatever your plumber is going to charge you to come out to take care of it. Right. And hopefully that's Dino. Hopefully that's Dino Service Bros. But you know, we're all
same thing for hair too. Cause a common one we get all the time is, how do I clear, what should I put in my drain to get rid of the hair? And that's where we're advocates for, well, one, don't put anything in it. Let's just get it opened up and cleaned out. And a lot of times you could do that as a homeowner. It's pretty simple.
Yeah. And then, man, now there's so much stuff on the market too. It's like to catch your hair from going in the drain, because that's massive, you know, like my cousin actually just hit me up.
That's what made me think of it. Cause she said, what do I need to get Drano, or what do I need to put down the drain to get rid of it?
Yeah, dude, it was gross, man. She sent me a picture, and like, it was in her shower drain for one of them. Yeah. Cause that's another thing, is your shower drain. Like, a lot of hair, right? A lot of soap scum. People ask, like, what's the most disgusting thing you've done as a plumber? Like, like they think it's a toilet or whatever. It's always drains in the shower. For whatever reason, that hair sits there and it smells so bad when you pull it out. Ugh, like it's just because it's like all the dirt. You got to think like, how many people pee in a shower? You know what I mean? So like, honestly, at the end of the day, people are like taking a piss in the shower, whatever else they're doing in there. I don't know, but it stinks and it's just like so bad. So like she pulled out, she's like, my shower drain is just draining so slow. Do I need to call a plumber? Cause she lives in California. So they, you know, my family hits me up as the family plumber. Like, what do I do? I'm like, don't call a plumber. like go to Home Depot, buy the little, like they got the little snakes or whatever. I'm like, run it down into there. And I'm like, cause that hair is going to be right in that P-trap underground. I'm like, so you could just grab it and pull it out. She pulled it out, sent me a massive picture of just like this massive chunk of hair. And she's like, dude, my drain is flowing so freely. I'm like, yeah, you just saved like whatever,
thousands,
whatever.
probably, yeah.
For California, yeah, probably $1,000 for a drain cleaner to come out. You know, state of California, you're gonna pay a lot more money.
They're just gonna jet it, so they're gonna charge you that fee. So it's like between, I think it's $700 to $1,200.
Yeah, for some people, you know. So it's like with that, it's like you wanna, you know, there's ways to prevent it, or you know, there is preventative maintenance, which is like getting those. They're just hair stoppers, right? Yeah. They're just little plastic things or whatever. You could put that in there and it'll just catch all the hair and you just clean it out that way. But try to catch it before it goes down. And if it goes down, try the alternatives before getting industrial equipment. Because usually you're going to use an industrial equipment once it's past your P-traps. Like start at your P-traps first. And at that point, okay, call a plumber. Because what people fail to realize is like, oh, it's just a drain snake. Yeah, but there's power feeds on them. Like just the other day I was using our mainline machine. And it snagged on something and I about broke my wrist because it's a long cable, right? And it's just really, you could think about it like a trampoline spring is how they look. So when it catches on something, if you don't feel it, and sometimes they're hard to feel in the drain line, that sucker will just like turn on you and grab your whole wrist and snap it really quickly. So that's why I always tell people when it comes to like industrial use equipment, call the professionals, but like take the steps prior before calling them. Like I say, the P-traps, like the little things you can do. Try to figure those out because if it's past that point, you need industrial equipment. There's no way around that.
Or even the basic one that I try to tell people all the time is, you know, screw off your drain cover in your sink, and pull all that nasty stuff off and just let it, because after time it's all just going to keep getting washed down and do that buildup.
Yeah, because with your pop-up assembly, that as well. With your pop-up assembly, a lot of hair gets stuck in there too, or whatever, because people, you know, shaving their sink or whatever it may be, or, you know, hair falls out, whatever, that too. Like a lot of stuff gets stuck in that pop-up assembly, and it's just a nut in the back. If you get underneath your sink, there's a little nut in the back that holds that. Unscrew that, pull it out, and pull the P-trap, or not the P-trap, sorry, the pop-up assembly out. Pull that guy out. There's a lot of junk in there too, so that's a big one. It can save a lot of people a lot of money just by doing simple steps like that. So yeah, I'm huge on like doing those steps before calling us. Like I say, I think we talked about it on the last episode a little bit, where it was like things to do right before calling us out, like a flapper ball, fill valve. Like, would we love to do it? Heck yeah. But I don't want you to hate me either. Like, right. You know what I mean? I don't want you to be like, oh, you charge me.
Well, that's where that misconception of plumbing price comes into play.
Yeah. It's hard because it's like, man, you're charging me this much. Yeah, well, it costed, like, what people don't realize is like, man, it cost me $250 just to get to your door with like my overhead expenses based on how many jobs we run a month. Like, it cost me about $250, $300 just to show up at your doorstep. And I'm not even charging you that, you know, but it's like, we have a base price, you know what I mean? Which every company does, and that ranges differently for everyone. And it's not that we want to rip you off, but we want to be a business too that doesn't suffer, you know, that like struggles and has to close the doors, because like we want to give you the best service, but like our base price for like all the minimal things, like that's why we tell people like, hey, try this first, and if this works, because like, would I like to, like, I will do it for you, you know, no questions asked. I'll do these things for you, but it costs money to call me. Like, you're calling a professional business out here, and it costs me money to operate. So I have to have a base number for you. But if you do it, it's $25, $50. Try those first. And if it's worse than that, I'll come out, and then you'll feel more relieved at the pricing, because you're like, okay, these make sense, you know? So
I think one of my favorite calls is when someone has a stinky drain in like their laundry room, and it's just because it's dry.
Well, well, people don't realize they have a floor drain. Most people like, okay, you have your washing machine box, right? Where it's like you have your shut off valves and then you have like a drain right there. Well, a lot of people have a floor drain too. What they don't realize, most of the time it happens to be right underneath, under it. And they're like, man, it stinks so bad in here. And I'm like, have you poured water down your floor drain? Do you have a floor drain? Because some people don't, you know what I mean? But they're starting to put a lot of them in there where it's like, in case this floods or whatever, something goes wrong, the water could go right into this floor drain. They're like, I have a floor drain? I'm like, look, you should, but not every house is like that. Most of them are, but I'm like, look, it like, they should be there. And they're like, oh yeah, I found it. I'm like, okay, pour a pitcher of water down there. Call me tomorrow. They call me tomorrow.
They always call so excited.
They're like, it doesn't stink anymore, man. We fixed it. I'm like, yeah, you just saved $89 from calling me to pour water down your P-trap, you know? It's like,
well, damn, I got to do that now.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to.
I was going to ask you guys a question, actually, just on the production mic here, but we started using Tide. I just grabbed Tide off the shelf because we order a different laundry detergent off Amazon.
Yeah.
And then we just used Tide because the order got delayed. So I picked up like a really small bottle. And then now after we use Tide, like our laundry room just smells like crap. It smells like Tide mixed with like old stank. You know what I'm saying?
Man. Well, with that too is like what people, I think fail to realize on like a lot of washing machines, you're really supposed to do a clean cycle on it with like they make these little, I forget what they're called, but literally it's just
you get pods or a liquid.
Yeah, it's just for it. Like it breaks down all that skunk because you got to think like if you're out shooting, right? You go out into the hills where it's dirty and you're out shooting, you got all this dirt flying. Well, that gets into your laundry, right? And then it starts to line. It's like a drain. It starts to line the tank. So it can be that like my clothes, my washing machine sucks. Like, and I have to do that so often where like every month I have to run a clean cycle on it to freshen it up because my clothes will start to get that smell of like halfway clean, halfway dirty. And I'm like, why does it?
Yeah, that's what I was talking. Yeah, that's exactly what
almost like a wet dog.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what it is. You just got to run like, there's a clean cycle on your washer. So a lot of it is just running that clean cycle with no clothes in there. Like I have to, like I said, do it once a month and use 2 pods. And then for a month, my clothes will smell great. But
well, that's the other thing too. Like every appliance now comes with a clean cycle function.
Yeah.
My fridge has a clean cycle function. Whether I replace the filter or not, you're still supposed to clean that out. Same thing with my dishwasher. It's got a clean cycle function. So just like a water heater, there's proper maintenance to take care of those. Even though we're not appliance experts, your water coming into it is going to be a big factor in continuing that clean cycle to keep your appliances alive longer.
Yeah, it's there for a reason, right? The manufacturers put it there for a reason. And with like a washing machine, like people do call on that. And I'm like, try this, you know, because that's a big part of it. That just, depending on what type of appliance you have, like top loaders and whatever, like I hear front loaders are worse though. Like the front loaders stink more. I don't know why. I'm not
because it all sits in one spot.
And they have that filter on the bottom too. Like if you pull off the screen, most of them have a filter underneath there, and that's disgusting.
Every appliance has a filter that needs to be changed, which is, again, I was terrible at this, and now I understand it.
I'm bad at it.
Yeah,
I do. Hey, my washing machine I clean though. I'm like big on hygiene. Like dude, I hate if I don't wear deodorant. One day, like, dude, I'll drive and find somewhere like that, like a store to go get it. I'll leave job sites because, like, I hate stinking. I'm like, where are you going? I'm like, I gotta go get deodorant. Like, I stink. But it's just that, like, you're like I say, your washing machines, like, you don't want your clothes to smell, mainly in the hot summer days, because as soon as they get like a little bit wet from your sweat, that smell
comes out,
and you're like, dude, like you're just smelling your clothes. Like, is that me? And it's like, it smell like a wet dog. So I always say, like, yeah, get that cleaning pods. And they break that down. Like I've done it once or twice. You know, like 2 cycles to break it down. And it, dude, I promise you, helps so much.
Whether it's the smell or your system, it's going to help something.
Yep.
So
Thanks.
I came across something yesterday that I thought was interesting. There was a couple of kids at the University of Utah, since we started service in Salt Lake. They called in and they had an issue with their toilet. And so as we're talking through it, we get into price. And so I explained to them what it would be if we come out and clear their toilet, if we have to pull and reset the toilet, or if we have to go further than that. And they said, they're like, man, that's expensive. And I said, yeah, it is, but there's other solutions out there to take care of it. Like one of my favorites with clogged toilets is Dawn soap. and then a 5-gallon bucket of hot water. And depending, as long as it's not clogged too much, you can usually get it broken down. But there's also, potentially another issue in there. So it's important that we inform them that even though you get it cleared, this could pop back up. What other type of advice can you give in situations like that where a toilet's clogged or maybe your sink's clogged, where you can maybe do something at home?
Man, you're making me give all the trade secrets away, bro. No, dude, I love it because I don't own a plunger at my house. Like, oddly, I don't, because I don't like plungers. They do the job, right? On sometimes, like, people get away with them, but when they're bad and you're like, I gotta call a plumber because it's farther than I think. Dude, they make drain snakes you could buy from Home Depot. I think it's Rigid that sells it. Milwaukee does one too that's battery operated. Like, so you're not, because the one like I have.
Talk about that one that shoots air and goes poof.
Nah, bro. There's that. People use that, but I'm so afraid of it like blowing back at me. Like I say,
those are my favorite videos.
I'm a pretty boy plumber. I gotta stay clean, bro. I'm like, I blow that in there, and I'm like, because I've seen so many people use it, and it just sprays back at them, and I'm like, then I cannot handle that because I can't stomach it. But it's a cable machine, right? Almost, but it's in a big old wand. So it's a toilet auger.
I think we even carry those on the trucks.
We do. That's what I'm saying.
So it's that basic.
It's a plumber tool. It's a toilet auger is what it's called. And Rigid sells one. It's a hand crank. And those suckers, that's what I got because I gotta keep strong. But they got Milwaukee ones, I think, that are battery operated. So you don't have to. You just hold the button and it'll spin it. But the hand crank, right? It has it so you push it all the way down into the toilet so you don't scratch the porcelain on the outside. So you can see it. So you slam it all the way back there. And it's literally just long enough to go through the trap of the toilet. And you use that guy. And if that doesn't clear it, then it's past the toilet. So then okay, I got to get a plumber out because it's actually like the main drain that's clogged. But I think everyone should own one of those. They're pain. Obviously, they're ugly to have. But, I mean, if you got a garage or somewhere to hide it, cool. Because they work. Like sometimes a plunger, like I've been called out, man, I've been plunging it for an hour and it's not going anywhere. And I'm like, all right. So I come out with my toilet auger. I'm like, let me just try it before I'm pulling the dang toilet. Run that and it clears within 30 seconds. They're like, where you buy that? And I tell them, they're like, I'm going to go get me one. So it's like a basic tool to have and it works way better than anything else. So that'd be my one advice to people.
And don't we've seen this before where people have taken like a hard stick, right?
Yeah.
And not necessarily on a toilet, but like a outside drain, like a clean out, and it's clogged or it's coming out the clean out. And they're out there just banging on it, trying to push whatever through. Dude. And they'll punch a hole in their line and then we have to come out.
Yeah. Hey, that brings me to some dude was using a stake because his main clean out was clogged, like out by the street. I mean, it was like on his property line, but it was like a 7-foot deep sewer because the sewer was really deep in his area. And he had a clean out and he's like, oh man, I was using like a concrete stake. So it's just big old steel stake, right? And he's like, I'm trying to clear it. And he dropped it. And it was like where his lateral of the house comes and then it hits a T. And then it's like a Y. Well, your clean out comes up and then it drops farther down to catch the city drain. And it goes out. Well, there's a 90 all the way at the bottom, right? So, and it's plastic. So he drops it down there and it just pops a hole in the PVC. So now he's paying thousands of dollars to have this thing fixed. So he wasn't thrilled, but it was his fault, right?
Yeah.
But you want to know how we got that sucker out? You remember that? We use a magnet.
That's right.
Dude, we used a magnet. And it was so heavy, but
I just remember he had a little girl's birthday party like that day or next day. So he was trying to get it done himself. Yeah, that night.
Hey, but you know what's crazy? What's really cool though is like me being the plumber. I had my brother, because my older brother just started plumbing with us, right? And I'm like, I'm looking at him because I didn't have magnets on my truck. Like I just never had a magnet because I haven't run into that situation, right? Where someone dropped a dang concrete stake down. I'm like, dude, what were you doing? And I'm like looking at my brother. I'm like, bro, I don't have a way to get this out of here yet. Like, and we were out there at like 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, I don't know how I'm getting this out there. Like I had my arm down there trying to fish it out. And I'm like, looking at him, what do we do? He's like, bro, we have those magnet hooks on the truck. And he's like, let's just fish it. And I'm like, cool, let's try it. So we literally just
tied a line and
dude, it were like hooks for our tools. And like we used it as a magnet. Ruben tied 2 of them on there, dropped it down, and Ruben just fished it out. And it was like it was cool because I was like, I didn't know we go fishing today, but you know, so he pulled that guy out, but then you could see it. We shined a light in there and you could see the big old hole at the bottom. So it was just one of those things like, bro, you leave it and then that water just keeps getting out right there. And, you know, eventually you'll have a void right underneath there. I was like, or we just fix it. But it was so deep, so it cost to do a lot of money. So in situations like that, call a plumber. Would have saved him. Would have saved him a lot of money if he would have
time and money. Yeah.
Oh, a lot of money. When you're deep, now you got shoring. You got to get. You know, you got to do all these things to prevent a collapse of their trench and kill your guys. So it's like once it passes like 5 feet, yeah, after 5 feet, you got to have shoring. So it's like we were that deep, so we had to shore it up. We had to, you know, do everything to make it right. So my guys didn't get hurt in there. And even then, I don't let my guys go in. Once it's like past that point, I'm like, we'll short and I'll hop in. So it was just one of those things, man, where I was like, man, if you would have called a plumber in this situation, because that's industrial machines you need for there. I'm like, you would have saved you thousands of dollars to fix this because we were digging so deep. So it sucks. There's, like I say, there's preventative maintenance. And then there's like, when you think it's too much, just call a professional. Even if it's just a phone call, like, hey, what do you think I should do in this situation? We'll either give you the advice over at Dino Service Bros. We'll give you the advice over the phone, or we're like, hey, this one's a plumber job for sure.
Let us come look at it at least.
And we'll always be honest. You know what I mean? Like, because there's things where I'm like, well, if I go out, like, like that doesn't make sense for me. So like, try this first, and then I'll come out. So, yeah, if you're just unsure and YouTube didn't help you, call us, man. We'll walk you through it step by step. We're not in this to hide things, you know. We're not into hide trade secrets. Like, I may joke around, but how are you making us give it all up? But like, honestly, at the end of the day, we're all for helping everyone. Like, so let us help you out. And then also, I think that's how we win. That's what makes us different, right? That's where I feel like we stand out from the competitors here, and our different plumbers in that aspect, where people could call us and we're not hiding anything. We're not like, oh, we need to come out. Like, we can't tell you anything until we show up to your door, and that's going to cost you $79 for a call out fee. We don't have a call out fee, man. We'll tell you over the phone, because it's like, why waste your time and my time, right? Like, let me just tell you these things. If you figure it out, dope. If not, I'll come out.
It's my favorite saying: win the customer, not their pockets.
Yeah, man. Because then it's like, that's what I always tell people. Like, you burn one person, those people are going to tell like 20 people, because it's easier to complain, right? We see it all over Facebook, like word of mouth. Like at St. George, word of mouth, all that place is complaints. Like, this person walked their dog on my lawn. Like, it's all it is. It's like, it's the craziest thing. So it's like, it's so quick for like, okay, those people, did you see, I don't remember the company name, and I'm not even throw it out. Some guy like road raged on our freeway here.
Oh, pulled out a gun?
Pulled out a gun
Yeah,
in
I
a
saw
company
that.
truck, dude. Was what do they call it?
Brandishing a firearm.
Brandishing a firearm. And he's in a company truck pointing a gun at this person. And they posted it on St. George word of mouth. Dude, how many people liked it? There was like 500 likes on it, like 400 comments on it. And I'm like, dude, like, so quick. And now that business is known for that, right? I don't know the business. I didn't even know they were a business. Yeah. Like, and that's the thing, is like, I didn't even know that was a business here. Now I do. Like, and that sucks for them, because it wasn't the owner, right? But the owner is going to take the fall for his employees doing this. So it's like bad marketing. So it's like big on like, take care of the customer, because it's so quick for 500 people to know you did horrible. Or if you do well, maybe 5 people find out, because less likely people share you doing a good job. But it's better than having the bad reviews. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the next biggest thing that customers call for, that's simple anyways, is my faucet doesn't work, or it's leaking, or not leaking, but it's draining slow out of the faucet, or my shower head is, it's all calcium buildup and the water's dripping out slow and I can't take a shower. What do you do in that situation?
If you don't have a water softener, it's probably because you don't have a water softener.
No, for sure.
Get the damn water softener, man. No, but a lot of it is like, there's multiple things, right? I say softener because, again, like here in St. George, it's the root of all evil right there. That thing causes you so much issues. But if it's like a leaky drip, it's going to be a cartridge. Like, your cartridge is just worn out and water's passing by, right? So when it's in the off position, water's slipping by. So it's just a cartridge replacement on that. But cartridges are getting kind of expensive in some aspects. So sometimes it's cheaper just to replace the faucet if it's yourself. And then it saves the headache. Because usually, like, if that's leaking, your faucet's probably like has all this buildup and it's starting to like, it's just looking old. So I always
even if you do the vinegar bath, sometimes that's not even going to cure it.
On the outside, like, you know what I mean? Like, it will to an extent, but like sometimes it's just damaged. Like your faucet looks ugly, right? So if you care about the look of things, like I'm like, well, you're almost going to pay for the faucet again, the cartridges. So you might as well just buy a new faucet and throw it in, you know? So, but with it, like if it's leaking, right? If it's dripping, it's cartridges. So you could go buy the cartridge and just replace it, right? Shut off the valves underneath the sinks if you've exercised your valves like you're supposed to. If you shut those off, it should shut the water off to that faucet, and then you could take out where the handle's at and pull that cartridge out. But if it's just like it's slow flow, usually you have an aerator under where your faucet's at, where the screen's at. If you pull that out, usually there's just calcium buildup in there. So you just clean that out. If it's either you could just rinse it out, or if it's hard, you just put in vinegar. Let it soak, or CLR.
So like same thing with the shower heads, right?
Yeah, shower heads too. They have flow restrictors and aerators now. Everything's like they want it to be low, like less water being used. So they have all these filters and restrictions in them to slow down the water consumption. So usually they're just filled with calcium, you know, a lot of sediment buildup. So it's just cleaning them out, staying on top of it. But again, like I say, a softener is going to solve a lot of that. Like if you stay on top of, like, if you have a softener, that's the thing too, is like people are like, oh, well, I don't like the slimy feeling. There's potassium. There's other ways to use it. Like we'll talk a little bit on softeners next time, a little bit more on it and get into detail, you know, with softener, water quality control and stuff like that. But for this one, it's, just a softener would be a great idea. And so, if you want to know more about it on the next episode, you'll hear about it. We'll dive into that, the terminologies and a lot more of the education really hard on the next one, because there's a lot to it for sure.
When it comes to, there's another call that I find very common is, I think my water pressure is bad. Now, there's a way the customers can check that, right?
Yeah, 100%. So if you go to a supply house, right, you go to like a parts store, or anywhere.
Home Depot, I think.
Yeah, Home Depot.
Ace, I think Ace carries them.
I try to stay out of box stores as much, even though I say go to Home Depot. Everyone knows Home Depot, so it's like, whatever. But if you got a plumbing store near you or a mom and pop shop, like support the locals. You know, I'm all about like supporting the small guys. Like the big box stores, they got their money. You know what I mean? So support the little guys. You know, I know there's a lot of mom and pop shops out in little or hardware stores and stuff. Like go to those guys, they probably have it. But it's a pressure gauge. That's all it is. It's PSI, like for, you know, water. So you go put that up to your hose bib, because if your house has a pressure regulator on it, then you're gonna have like all your hose bibs will be regulated, right? So you go hook up that pressure gauge to your hose bib, and if it's reading super low, right? If it was high at one point, like, just yesterday I was showering and all my faucets felt good, but today I woke up and I just have like no flow out of my house. Most likely it's going to be that your pressure regulator has failed on you anyways, but you could go check at your hose bib with that pressure gauge and see what it's reading at. Usually it should be about 50 to about 70 PSI. That's a safe range. You could go up to about 75, but I always tell people like that, again, preference, right? For me, I'm like, don't go above 70. Because that's a lot of pressure anyways. You don't need that much, you know? So if it's reading lower than, 50, see if you could adjust your pressure regulator. Like, because if it's always been low flow, try to adjust it first. If it just like overnight was low and that's all your fixtures, it's probably your regulator, which is going to be where your main shutoff is, which in most houses is going to be next to your water heater. So you'll have, it just looks like a big cone, like a big cone shape. So usually that just needs to be replaced. That's the starting point. Like either they have the adjustment on it, you could adjust it, or if that doesn't work, then it's just a replacement. And usually, again, like homeowners could do that too. There's a shutoff valve, and then usually there's unions on it. Like you just bust those unions, you go buy the same
screws on, screws off.
So you go buy the same one. Like if it's a Watts brand, you go buy the same Watts brand, because then the unions are the same. So you could just take it out, it'll come with new gaskets. You put some plumber silicone on it, like just plumber's grease, put on it, and then tighten that bad boy back up, and then you're good to go. Make sure it's directional. There's arrows on it, so directional.
Look for the arrows.
Yeah, if you do it the wrong way, so remember how you pulled it out and you put it in, because you do it the wrong way, you might not get water.
Well, even then, I mean, sometimes even when your pressure appears to be good, you could be having issues. So you could check it yourself. It might fall within that range, but even though your home's within range, you still could, like, let's say I run the shower, but now it's slow in my sink, there would still be an issue in your regulator, right?
Yeah, if it's just like, if it's just that, right, where it's like, I'm not getting enough, right? Okay, so for example, I could run my shower and my sink and have the same flow rate on both of them. Well, this morning you woke up and you're running your shower and someone goes to use the sink and it's just like dead. There's not enough water coming out of it. Gonna be your regulator again. go change it out. Springs in it have just shot out. So it just, at that point, it's not fluctuating with it. It should open and close as you're calling for more water. It should allow more water to pass through and still keep that pressure, that PSI on it. So it all stems from there, really, for the most part. It's all going to fall back on the pressure regulator. So, like I said, I always go back to, I change it out. Solid. Solid as a rock, baby. So,
well, even with simple things, like I just want to throw this in there about air conditioners real quick, because we do HVAC.
Yeah.
We don't have our HVAC guy here, but still, if you just by replacing your filters on a consistent basis, you're going to keep the life of your AC going longer. Or even doing a regular maintenance, maintaining your furnace in the winter, maintaining your AC in the spring, you're going to allow that system to live longer. So it's just really the same mindset with everything in your home, whether it's running a cycle, whether it's checking certain things, whether it's getting maintenance done.
and Michael was supposed to be here.
Dino Mike.
But instead, he's getting breakfast. You know how nice that sounds right now? Breakfast. Sucker, no, just kidding.
Yeah.
Nah, he forgot. He thought we talked business days. It was a Sunday. But Michael, yeah, he does our HVAC too. And that dude has a lot. That's why we wanted to bring him on today. He has a lot of information. He's a fun guy. Dino Mikey.
So when it comes to maintaining your systems, every home we go into, we do a home inspection. How often should a home inspection be done?
Once a year.
If a customer is, they're concerned about something, obviously call us, but consistently once a year?
It depends, really. I like preventative. Things could change overnight. You know what I mean? So I'm like all about preventative. So like a home inspection have done like once a year, because with memberships, right? You get memberships. Like we offer memberships. Mm-hmm. Most people do anyways, but it's like, if that for plumbing, right, we're going to flush your water heater, and then we're going to do a whole home inspection. We're going to check your angle stops, check your fill valves, check your faucet, everything plumbing wise, we're going to check. Except your drains, unless you want us to run you like a sewer camera, then obviously like we could do that too. But I don't think that's as necessary. But like doing like a whole home evaluation on your plumbing and your HVAC and your electrical should all be done once a year for sure, because then it just keeps you up to date. And on that first year, like we come out, like for me, for instance, like I go out, I'm like, hey, look, your water heater's 12 years old. It's showing signs. Like maybe you should get this fixed today or this week, so it's preventative from it failing. Like you can see rust coming down it. Like obviously you're in bad shape with it. And then I'll look at like the angle stops, like, the angle stops are getting stiff. They're not bad, but they are getting stiff. You guys should look to replacing them within the next year to two, like save some money or whatever it may be. Like it's not important today, but it is on your schedule to have done. You know what I mean? But at least once a year, have those things evaluated. I always recommend. And then with your HVAC, same thing. Like you just don't know if gas seals have started to get loose or anything like that. So like it's, like I said, your house is your biggest investment. So to be preventative and proactive, like have those things done. So you're just staying up to date on it. So you're not surprised when something just goes sour and now you're out $100,000. Which
I think this is the next thing I want to bring up. This is the craziest thing. Like, what the hell? Like, how do you not know how to turn off the water to your home? So what would you say to customers that don't know how to turn off the water to find that? And then what should they have to be able to turn off their water?
Well, dude, you're so surprised. Like most people are, like when they call, they're like, my house is flooding. I'm like, okay, did you shut off your water? Well, no, I don't know how to. I'm like, dude, like, come on. Like, this is basic. Like even I knew that, right? Like it should be basic. Like you owning a home, there should be like a manual, like, hey, these are basic steps of home ownership, right?
And the first one should be how to shut off your water.
Know how to shut off your gas. Know how to There's so many things like you should be able to know to do just to shut it off, right? So like it's different for everybody. Most new homes are going to be wherever your water heater is at, and most of the time it's a garage, or your mechanical room. Your water main is going to come into there. It's going to hit a ball valve, and then it's going to hit that pressure regulator. That should be your shut off to the entire home. Your main is still going to be live from the street, and to that point, to that ball valve, that main will still be active, right?
But what if you haven't exercised your ball valve and it's stuck because nothing's been done?
Now you're out at the street, So now where your meter is coming in at, and that's different too, because there's HOAs that they have 1 meter for the entire complex without a valve outside, because the subdivision's so old, you don't have an outside. Now you're stuck waiting for the city to come out and shut you down. But what we're seeing a lot of nowadays is the city doesn't want you touching their, and that's a big thing too, right? So the city doesn't want you touching their meter, because if it fails, then that's on you. I mean, I'm an advocate for like save your house. Like, so there's water meter keys out there. Like most meters nowadays are being put in with a homeowner side where they have a ball valve in that meter, that box where your meter box is at. You have a homeowner side where they put a ball valve on. So now homeowners could do that, and that shuts off everything, your water meter all the way forward. It'll shut off your irrigation, everything. You should own a water meter key, because if you're in an older home, they don't have one. So it's just a meter key. There's just a slot. You buy them from any box store, any supply house. There's just a meter key. I think everyone should have, if you're in an old home like that. Then you just put it in there. They have like a opening where, like, if they turn off your water, they can lock it. You just put those back on top of each other. There's one on the bottom, and then where that ball moves, there's one up top. You just line those up. They'll shut off your house. Like I say, use that sparingly, because the city doesn't like it. All right. The city does not want you touching it, because if it does fail, that's on you as a homeowner to pay for it. And that's thousands of dollars too. But at the same time, the way I see it, it's like the city's going to take a little bit to get to your house, and this water's flooding, right? Are they going to pay for your house flooding? No. So, I mean, it's sixes. Like, I don't know if it's good or bad advice, but at the end of the day, like, save your home. That's how I see it. Save yourself. Like, go out there, shut it off. So own one of those. Usually they work fine, but yeah, shut it off, call plumber.
So the health of it, they say this often, the health of a nation is dependent on the health of their plumbing or their plumbing system. Same thing, health of a home, health of a community. What advice would you give homeowners for their overall health when it comes to their plumbing system?
As in, like, what can you do to make it healthy?
Yeah, or how can you improve it, or just what's some common things they can do to make sure that everything's...
I feel like plumbing's pretty simple in that way, where it's like you have reverse osmosis if you want cleaner drinking water, right? People get lost with like, oh, I got a refrigerator and it has a filter. It's a micron filter. Like, it doesn't do nothing for you. You know what I mean? It pulls out, like, if there was a leaf in your water or something, you know, it really doesn't do nothing. It doesn't clear up your water, doesn't make it more drinkable. So it's like filtered water. No, it's just like pulling out. Because like here in St. George, we have sand in our water. Like you could pull your toilet lid off where your tank's at, and you'll see sand sitting in there because it's in our water supply. So like that filter in your refrigerator will catch that. Yeah, 100%. But you're not getting like the contaminants, right? There's arsenic, lead. Like there's so many contaminants that are in water. Like in anywhere, like if you're listening to this and you're in St. George, you're in New York City, you could pull up water reports online of the city. They have it and how healthy that water is. And everyone, like, the U.S. is not big on water cleanliness, on how far they take it. Like, is it healthy to their standards? Sure. But you look at some others, like countries, they get crazy with what water has to meet before getting put out. So is it drinkable? Yeah. You know, you could drink it, but I always recommend, like, if you want healthy drinking water, get a reverse osmosis with a remineralization in it. So you get still the minerals that you need, but it cleans a lot of it. Like there's a lot of brands out there that you could look into that take away, 99% or so much. Like, cause our water is like, our tap water around the nation isn't amazing. It's not as far from amazing in my eyes. So that's why a lot of people buy bottled water and they buy, alkaline water and all this stuff. So it's like I say, like a reverse osmosis is massive for drinking because you could hook it, like maybe in new builds, like if you're a new build person, like you could put a reverse osmosis and have it lined to both your refrigerator and to your sink. But they also have like whole home filtration systems, excuse me, that aren't softeners, but they like, so if you're in a place where it's like, you don't really have hard water, you could get like a whole house filtration where everything in your house, you could drink water from any tap. So there's a few steps you could take, but reverse osmosis being the biggest one. And then for the health of your pipes, softener. But again, a softener isn't cleaning out the contaminants in the water. It's just taking the hard minerals out of it. So there's a little bit of differences in it.
So at the end of the day, I think just in closing this, the best thing to do if you're confused, concerned, have questions, give us a call.
Yeah, 100%, man. Call us up. Again, always call us. Like we're open. It don't matter where you're at in the world. We're open to it all, for sure.
All right. Well, yeah, give us a call, 435-236-4568. We also have a really great blog that highlights a lot of the things that we talk about on here, gives free information, gives advice, but really don't hesitate to reach out. You can check us out online, www.dinoservicepros.com, or on social media at Dino Service Bros.